Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics, and in this video I'd like to discuss the isolation part of any successful programme to reduce the spread of COVID infection and how having one of the lowest sick pay regimes in Europe is going to undermine our efforts in this regard, just as the government have undermined all other aspects of our attempts to control the virus. But first, if you'd like to be notified of daily news and politics, please subscribe to the channel and click the bell notification icon. So to begin with, and this is very much going to tie into what I need to talk about with sick pay, I'd like to throw in my observations on how I see autumn proceeding based on my experience as a teacher. Do teachers have some special insight into this, Phil? Oh yes they do. So in September, schools and colleges will be fully open with no compulsory wearing of face masks or social distancing requirements at all. Never mind the 1 metre plus, nothing at all in schools or colleges. Now, in a normal academic year, autumn would run as follows. So, end of summer, everyone comes together from all different parts of the town or even region for a college, which is where I get most of my experience. And they mix all their horrible little germs together. They all have raves and orgies, and all these little bugs breed other little bugs. And then in October, you start to see a few people with the sniffles, bit of a sore throat, usual stuff. By November, you've got viral conditions running around. Students and teachers alike dosing up on the Lemsip, while others stay at home, considering themselves too ill to come in. That's a normal year. So consider that situation this year. So normally, you would just think under these circumstances, oh, I've got a bug, I'd better take a few days off so I don't infect everyone else, or for whatever other reason. Or you go and get a Lemsip. I prefer lockets myself, but whatever you choose, you do what you do. But in 2020, we're not going to be thinking that. Our first thoughts are going to be, oh, I might have coronavirus. If you have a cough or a temperature, you won't just take the normal measures, you'll be reporting it and trying to get yourself a test. And if you don't, everyone else will be telling you to do that. The pressure that this would put on our inadequate testing regime will be interesting to behold, because I'm guessing you're going to see similar behaviours in workplaces across the country as well, though I think schools and colleges are going to be the larger breeding grounds, certainly than most other workplaces. And how do I know our testing is inadequate? Because the government are still refusing to publish the figures on how many people are being tested a day. That's how. Until they do that, then it's obvious that not only is the actual figure inadequate, but so far below inadequate that they can't let us know. And this summer, it's not so bad. What happens in autumn? So for those who do manage to get a test, of course, most will inevitably test negative. It will be something else. It won't be COVID. It's the season for freshers' flu. There's going to be all sorts going around. But there will, of course, be an increase in the number who do test positive for COVID. That will trigger isolation instructions to everyone who was in close contact with them that at least they can name. And for many workers, that means having to rely on statutory sick pay. Now, for all the government's boasting, ours is basically the worst, or one of the worst in Europe. It's so bad that the EU Commission took us to task over it a few years ago, saying that it wasn't even up to their minimum standard. And, of course, this was yet another reason for the Tories wanting us to leave. Now, currently, our sick pay is worth less than £100 a week. Well short of the living wage, and definitely well short of what people actually need to live on. Hand-to-mouth workers cannot afford to isolate on such terms. Now, although the government did take some action to help, because normally in this country you're not allowed to claim statutory sick pay until you've been off for 4 days, which again is not normal in Europe. They removed that requirement for COVID, but they also did increase the rate of statutory sick pay. Must give them credit where credit's due. They increased the rate of statutory sick pay by £1.60. So, yeah. So what it means is that people who should isolate, quite a lot of them can't. Now of the people that should isolate, not all will be infected with COVID, of course, but then that feeds into your mindset. You'll know, well, I don't know that I'm infected. So that helps them justify it as well when they're given this impossible situation. The reason for isolation is because there is a significant risk that there could be, and until they test negative, should treat the situation as if they are infected and infectious, which also means the rest of their household as well. And that's also where the problem with genuine testing capacity comes in. Not the capacity the government says we have whilst hiding the figures. So as I mentioned at the start of the video, this is where this comes in. If the demand for tests, which will be massively increased due to people developing viral infection symptoms, as is typical of the last quarter of the year, if that extra demand for tests can't be met, then isolating would have to pick up the slack for a poor testing regime. Now, the punishing impact of isolating on the poorest workers, who also of course represent the most populous group of workers and therefore have the greatest capacity to spread the infection, means that our isolation strategy is also not pulling its weight, let alone pulling extra weight for the poor testing. And speaking of the lowest paid, as Annalisa Dodds pointed out this weekend, she's Labour's Shadow Chancellor, quite a lot of those workers don't actually even qualify for statutory sick pay. It's not automatically granted. So, theirs isn't a choice between earning enough to pay the essential bills and trying to protect the population from infection. Theirs is a choice between managing with no money at all whilst protecting the general population, or actually having some money to be able to pay for food, which of course is an impossible situation to be put in, a very genuine dilemma, and therefore the rate of infection is going to go up. There is no choice. There's no choice at all. They'll have to go out and earn their money, and they will justify it by going, well, I don't know that I'm infected, so I'm probably not. I wasn't in that close contact with them. It'll be fine. So in trying to avoid a second wave, and until it's happening, until the second wave is underway, and definitely underway, you have to say there is hopefully a way to avert it. There is such a thing as events in motion that can't then be stopped. But until we see the evidence for it, we have to assume that we can still avert it. But we are failing in the following areas. So 1, face masks. We know that if everyone wore face masks, that we could massively reduce the spread of infection. But the rules on face masks are insufficient and confusing, and they came in very late. But, better late than never. In addition, a lot of people are refusing to wear them. Now, this is crucial because some people have even had the gall to photograph themselves breaking the law and posting it on social media. They've pictured themselves in supermarkets sometimes they've taken the piss and had a mask around their neck. Now, I've yet to see an example of anyone being fined by the police for doing so. Though I am happy to see the rest of the week out to see if the rules are being enforced as much as possible. And definitely, never mind police talking to these people, if someone has gone to the lengths of photographing themselves on social media doing this, they are deliberately breaking the law and should be fined. But we'll see. Secondly, our testing capacity is underwhelming. Were it otherwise, like I say, the government would be happy to publish the figures of people tested, not fiddle figures about tests carried out, which, remember, every test that's actually carried out, they count as 2 because there's 2 bits to the stick. I'm not kidding. And also, quite a lot of the results never make it back to the people it's intended for. They're still counted as well. Some of the tests that are counted aren't even carried out. They're still counted. 3, our tracing programme is, of course, beyond a joke. Not only is the system not even contacting everyone on the list, but we look like the tracing app will never appear at all. I mean, never mind winter, which is, of course, likely to be too late for a second wave. We may never actually get the tracing app. 4, our isolation strategy can only work with public compliance, like all the other strategies, and the punishing impact on most workers because of our piss-poor statutory sick pay means that compliance is impossible on a large enough scale. And 5, the chaotic nature of tracking infections at the local level, with central government being too slow to cotton on to the need for regional control, which most other countries managed months and months ago, means that local outbreaks become larger than they would have done if the local authorities had been given the resources needed to tackle it themselves. Now, generally speaking with the system, it is possible that if one area is weak, a stronger one can pick up some of the slack. The problem is that they're all weak. But anyway, those are my thoughts. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Hope you found the video interesting. If you did, don't forget to click the like button and also support the channel by clicking the Patreon link as well. And until next time, I'll see you later.